Well, good morning, everybody. This is Dwight Cypher's Gunsmithing Services up here in Dana, Indiana. And today's video is a little bit different than what I usually do. This video has nothing to do with gunsmithing. This video has to do with the question of, do our pets go to heaven? Do all dogs go to heaven? Do our pets go to heaven? That's a serious question to a lot of people. As a lot of you know, especially those that are my friends on Facebook or customers of mine, I recently lost my buddy, Reuben James. I had Reuben for almost 10 years, and he was the best dog I ever had. And Reuben Showtime James, he's an English lab, purebred, and he was just phenomenal in so many different ways. And it was be 4 weeks tomorrow that we lost Reuben, and it crushed me. I've never grieved anybody or anything like I've grieved Reuben. And I know that don't sound right. I mean, and I agree. I mean, sure, there's family members I probably should have grieved more, but I just didn't. I loved him so much. I love him so much, and so in the days after that, I started asking this question. Well, two questions really. What happens to our pets when they die? And also, I prayed and asked the Lord to grant me some comfort in my heart. And He's done some amazing things since then. And it culminated, well, I don't know that it culminated, but yesterday, He just did a flat out miracle. But I wanted to share that with you, kind of this journey that I went on. And maybe it will help you if you're struggling with that question. Do my pets go to heaven? So Reuben James, he was just a few months shy of 10 years old, and he had spinal stenosis, fancy term that his legs quit working in the back and in the front, and it was time to let him go. And so as I grieved a couple of days, I mean, I was just in miserable shape. I started praying. I said, Lord, would you grant me some relief from this sorrow? It's just grief. It's just so much. Would you give me some comfort? And the Holy Spirit spoke to my heart and said, look at Romans chapter 8. Now look, folks, I've studied Romans, the book of Romans, my whole adult life. I've studied 5 different commentaries at least on it. I've taught it. And I was like, Romans 8, why is he directing me there? And this was the passage that he directed me to, Romans chapter 8, verses 18 through 25. For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. For the creature was made subject to vanity not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope, because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. For we are saved by hope, but hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man seeth, why doth he yet hope for? But if we hope for that we see not, then do we with patience wait for it. So, if you're not used to reading the King James or not familiar with this, basically what it's saying is this: those of us that have been saved, that have been born again, that have trusted Jesus Christ and Christ alone, what He did for us on the cross, and accepted His deliverance, and have been born again, have the Holy Spirit. That is the down payment that we become the sons of God. That's a direct creation, which is different than being a son of Adam, which everyone is a son or daughter of Adam, but it's not a direct creation. That's what Jesus said to Nicodemus in John 3. You must be born again. He was talking about that new birth. And salvation is threefold. You have justification, that's when you get saved and you're made right with God. You have sanctification, that's where Christ starts to form you, make you more like Himself. He changes your heart. He gives you a new heart, actually. And He starts to make you in His image. And lastly is glorification. And that is when, at the rapture resurrection event, that you get your new body is like Christ. And see, Jesus is the Redeemer of all creation. And that's what struck me, because I knew the promise that someday I was going to get a new body and I'll be out of this temporary tabernacle that's corrupt and subject to sin and the effects of sin, that I would get a new body like Christ. But then I saw this, that the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God, and that the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. And I went, Lord, are you telling me that I'm going to get to see my boy again? That someday I'm going to have Reuben again? And I started to believe that. And so, but God wasn't done showing me. And so then I ran across this book. It's Do Our Pets Go to Heaven? It's by Terry James, Thomas Horn, and contributors. Now, I'm kind of a student at Thomas Horn. He just passed away here, I think, about a month or two ago, not too long ago. But he's known as a prophecy expert. And so he wrote this book, and it's a wonderful book, and I recommend to anyone that is, and I'll hold it up here again just in case. I recommend it to anyone that's wanting to see some questions or get some of the answers to this question, do our pets go to heaven? And I'll just mention that one of the things in there that I thought was pretty neat was that there's been some pretty heavy hitters, theologians, both past and present, that actually believe that the Bible gives good reason to believe that our pets will be in heaven. Some of those are Randy Alcorn, Thomas Horn, I mentioned, Billy Graham, C.S. Lewis, probably the deepest thinker of our time. C.S. Lewis, he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, and I'm not a big fan of C.S. Lewis. His stuff is pretty deep, and sometimes, I don't follow him, and sometimes, I don't like that the aspect he starts from, but I cannot deny that he was truly a great theologian and was a very deep thinker. And he wrote in his book, The Problem of Pain was the name of his book. He wrote about pets going to heaven, and basically he makes a very strong argument that the pets of the believer are sanctified by the relationship they have with the believer. Some of the others, Mark Hitchcock, Dr. David Reagan, Mondo Gonzalez. Mondo, he's over at Prophecy Watchers, and I really enjoy listening to him. And Terry James is another one. But all that deep theology and those deep thinkers, that's all great. But there's a lady by the name of Joni Eareckson Tada. I don't know if you've heard of her, but you should check her out. Joni Eareckson Tada is just a true, wonderful woman of God. When she was a teenager, she had a diving accident. She became paralyzed from the neck down, and she spent her life in a wheelchair. And she's faced so many struggles, but she loves God with all her heart. She knows she has a relationship with God that most of us can only wish for. And she's gone through so much suffering. She's written books, and she's a fabulous person. But I liked her quote that was in this book, and she said this: "It would be just like him, God. It would be totally in keeping with his generous character, which is extravagant in grace after grace. Heaven is going to be a place that will refract and reflect. Let me start over. Heaven is going to be a place that will refract and reflect in as many ways as possible the goodness and joy of our great God, who delights in lavishing love on his children." That meant more to me than all that theology of these other guys. And I'm like, that's right. That is just like my God. That's like the God I know. So, he's starting to make this argument with me and starting to make this case with me. Yeah. And it's starting to really I find some real comfort in this. Continue to look, and it says that as far as God's regard for animals, He sees this very sparrow fall. He mentions that when he talks about knowing the very number of hairs on our head. I don't have much here, but horses are mentioned over 150 times in the Bible, many times in heaven, and even at the day of Jesus' return, He comes riding on a white horse, and those that are redeemed come riding with Him. But as we came up on this day, like I said, tomorrow will be 4 weeks to the day when we lost Reuben. Yesterday, I was just really, really down. I don't know that I've been more down in my entire life. And I had to go see my doc yesterday, and I go, and yesterday was the day that I didn't see the doctor. I saw the nurse practitioner, and she's a wonderful Christian lady. We just call her Katie. And I was amazed. She came in the office. How are you doing today, Dwight? And she had this beautiful little dog on a leash. And with her, I mean, what doctor or nurse practitioner brings their dog to work? She's never done it before. I've never seen this before. And this little dog come up to me, started loving on me, and I started loving on it. And my heart just melted, And Katie's a sweet gal, and she was like, that's a pretty strong reaction. What's going on, Dwight? And I said, yeah. And I gave her one of the cards I made, and I'll put a link to this. This is a tribute that I made to Reuben. It's a music video, and anyways, you can scan that QR code. You could probably just do it off of right there, and it'll take you to the video. So I told her about losing Reuben. Now, Katie's a Christian gal, but usually when I go and talk to her and I see her, it's me giving her an encouragement. And she says something. I mean, I took it as a word from the Lord. She said to me, well, now I know why. She goes, I never take my dog to work. But she just would not stop. She would not take no for an answer about not going with me. So I thought, well, whatever, I'll bring her with me. And she goes, now I know why. And she goes, Jesus is just telling you, Dwight, that He sees you, and that He sees your tears, and He feels your pain, and that He loves you. I'm like, wow. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. That was a pretty encouragement. But the Lord wasn't done. The Lord was not done yet. So then, and she didn't know that I lost my dog. She had no idea that I lost my I've got 3 other English Labs. My wife raises them. We raise them. But Reuben was my boy. So she didn't even know about this, and she brings this dog to work. So then I get back home. I open up the gun shop, and I got another customer, and he's a good friend as well. And I don't want to embarrass him. We'll just call him T. So T comes in, and he's there to pick up a couple guns of his. Now, he knew I'd lost Reuben. There was 3 people the Lord used yesterday. 2 of the 3 didn't know that I had lost Reuben. And Tim said, I was thinking about you, Mr. Dwight. And he goes, I got you this. And so he brought me this. It says, Lab lovers welcome, all others tolerate. He says, I wish I could have found the yellow one. He goes, but he just wanted to do something kind for me, and he brought me this beautiful, I don't know what you call it, a statue of a lab, and just a way showing that he cared, and I was like, well, that's really thoughtful. I mean, how many customers of a gun shop would do something like that? I mean, that was just amazing. Thank you. I know you're going to see this, T. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And I'm like, well, the Lord really is giving me some encouragement. So then, He wasn't done. He was not done. I've got another customer. We'll just call him D, okay? And D is an artist, and he loves art. And he brings this in and he shows it to me. And I don't know how well you can see this. Kind of looks maybe a little bizarre, but it's actually not. Maybe I can hold it where you can see it. What this is one of those 3D crystals that cost a lot of money to get made. And Dee had saw this. This was on a gravestone over 30 years ago. It was sculpted into a gravestone, and he had taken a picture of it because he thought it was very unusual art. It was a picture of the face of the crucified Christ on the cross. He'd taken a picture of it and didn't know what to do with it. And then he saw these crystals. He thought, wow, and I'll get this crystal made, and I'll put this on this crystal. And this is not cheap to do. And so anyway, so he gets this, he has this done, and then for some reason he just felt compelled to give it to me. So he brings it in yesterday and he shows it to me because he enjoys the cards that I make. He enjoys the artwork that goes into the encouragement cards that I make. And he says, "What do you think of that?" And I thought, well, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. He goes, yeah, I found that on a gravestone 30-some years ago. I took a picture, and recently they came out with these 3D crystals, so I had this made. And he goes, it's yours, Dwight. And I'm like, what? Yeah, you can have it. And I'm like, these are expensive. He goes, oh, not that much. Well, I know better. And so I'm sitting there, and literally, T had just given me this lab 5 minutes earlier. He's still in the shop. He sees this. D comes in, and he gives me this picture of Jesus in this crystal. And I realized then, so the Lord took 3 different people, 2 who didn't even know I lost my dog. Only one of those actually professes to be a born again believer. The other 2, the 2 of them are, I'm not going to say that they're atheists or anything like that. They're not, but only one of the 3 claims to be a born again believer. But God used these 3 yesterday to minister to me, to let me know that Jesus sees, and that I believe it was a word. I mean, that these things just don't happen, and the timing and the unusualness of it just convinced me that Jesus was telling me, hang in there, buddy. I love you, and you're going to see your boy again. So, because it was truly miraculous, because these guys, none of them, of these 3 people, none of them knew each other, none of them know each other, none of them knew what the other one was doing, and so here I get this. She tells me that she brings her dog to work, and she tells me that Jesus sees my tears and he cares that I lost my boy Reuben. And then I get confirmation from 2 other guys that are completely unrelated with Jesus and a lab. So, do our pets go to heaven? Well, mine did. And, I would be amiss if I didn't address the fact that, when you get born again, it's because of what Christ did. It's not because of anything I did. Matter of fact, you don't deserve it, and I didn't deserve it, and you have to come to that point where you realize you don't deserve it. It's all a grace, and it's what Christ did on the cross, and therefore, once you're born again, you become a child of God. And so I believe that the pets of the saved are sanctified, and they'll be in heaven. And I'm not the only one that believes that. And God gave me some really strong confirmation yesterday. But then the question, well, what about the lost? What about their pets? Well, I'm not going to say it's irrelevant, but if you don't trust Christ, you're not going to be in heaven. So whether your pet goes there or not, that's going to be the least of your worries. And maybe they all do go to heaven. Maybe all animals. I don't know. But the Bible does say that Jesus redeems the creation. And you know what? There's an awful lot of Christians in this life and throughout the age, ever since the first man was born, a lot of people have been redeemed that never had the opportunity to have pets. So maybe perhaps they're going to be up there, and there's going to be a huge shelter, and where they're adopted out to the people that want them. I don't know, but I know that God convinced me that at least the pets of the saved do go to heaven. So that's my belief, and but the main thing is you need to make sure you're going to heaven, and there's no other name given among men whereby we must be saved, which is Jesus Christ. So I shall hope this has been a help to you and an encouragement, and be glad to talk to you anytime. I love you. Again, thank you to Katie, thank you to T, thank you to D, and thank you most of all for Jesus, for your goodness and your grace. All right. Have a good day.